Well, now let's take a step back in time to what I remember very, very finely, and that is my local hobby shop. And we're fortunate that we have a hobby shop owner with us this evening, Mark Pendergast. And Mark, I thank you so much for doing this, but trying to introduce us to some local hobby shops and having us get a feel for the issues that hobby shop is having to deal with right now, and how modelers probably are having the same kind of concerns. Because anything that we can do to try to keep the hobby shops out there that we have, as far as I'm concerned, I'm all for that. So thank you so much for helping us through that.
No problem, Jim. Glad to be here. I really am. I really believe in this. And tonight I have an interesting guest. It's actually not a hobby shop owner. Decided my last guest, he couldn't make it tonight. So I had a backup, and it's actually one of my customers. Now, this is a young gentleman who came to us probably when he was, 12 years old or so forth. And he's been around for about 10 years, annoying the heck out of us. But he's an avid modeler, and he purchases both on the internet and at brick and mortar stores. So what I wanted to do was kind of look at this from the other side of the door. So hopefully a lot of the shop owners will kind of listen to what Mike has to say about his experiences, good and bad. So I'm going to, talk to him, ask him some questions about what he's had here. So Mike is like I said, Mike has been with us a long time, and he's really been around the block. He's an avid modeler. In fact, in the background, you'll see his model railroad that he's building. So he's definitely, hello, Mike. Glad to see you're here. You cleaned up well.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So basically, without screwing around anymore, let's get down to it. So Mike, as I just said, I've known you a long time. We're friends, and you're a customer, and you buy from basically all types of mediums, from internet to brick and mortar stores.
Brick and mortar stores, eBay, Facebook, model train shows, everything short of some dude in a trench coat in an alley. Although if I can't find some Polar Express cards soon, I may turn to that next.
There you go. So one question I want is, what's the majority of your purchases? Are they internet or store?
They tend to be more towards the internet, and that's a knock on any store in particular. My hobbies, or my interests in the hobbies, tend to be very niche. I tend to be into logging. I tend to be in the narrow gauge. I tend to be in a lot of stuff that doesn't have a huge presence in stores, but you typically have an easier time finding on the internet. I mean, I found things related to those above items in stores, but I just have better luck on the internet with those.
Okay. So what do you really, when you walk into a store, okay, because obviously we're trying to promote stores, what's one thing that really turns you off when you walk into a store?
If I just feel like a hostile vibe in the room, like I feel like if the place feels a little too clinical, it kind of makes me kind of regress a little bit. It doesn't make me walk out, just makes me think, okay, I feel like if I don't buy something, I'm going to catch an uncomfortable look from the guy behind the counter. And I don't like feeling like I need to buy something. Like sometimes I walk into a model train store because I'm in town for reasons unrelated, and I need to kill time for about 30 minutes. And who knows, maybe that guy has something I want, but I don't know. I need to look.
Right. Okay. And what's one of the best things when you've walked into a store? What's something that just really knocked your socks off when you've walked into a particular store? And you've traveled a little bit, so you've been to a few stores.
I'd say what knocks my socks off is if you have a lot of your trains like on display where I can see what you're, like stacked tons of boxes, although I don't mind picking through those. What I like seeing is like when you have like a glass case that's got row upon row upon row upon row, which I could just kind of sit there like this, drooling like, ooh, what is my bad purchase, or what is my bad habit purchase this month, or what am I going to be blowing money on this week? Guys, guarantee if I see something like that, good chance I'm going to see something in there. I'm like, that is coming home with me. Yes, it's $400, but it's coming home with me.
Right. Oh boy, what was I? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. What would you like to see stores in general? Like when you walk into a store, what's something you'd like to see them carry that they're not carrying? Something that you're kind of getting frustrated finding, or something like that.
That's a good one because, like I said, my interests are a little on the niche side. But as far as like finding stuff, I'd love to be able to walk in and see more narrow gauge on the shelf. I'd like to be able to walk in and just see a wider variety of DCC components on the shelf because I got a lot of DCC projects that I've got going all at once, and it's just sometimes hard for me to find all the parts I want to use when I want to use them because sometimes the itch just strikes out of nowhere and I want to act on it. I think it's just having product available on the shelf is any amount of product on the shelf would be nice because the more I can look through, the more the more it'll occur to me. Like I'm picking through stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I want to model that on my C and I need that. Oh hey, it's like I didn't think I needed that, but I could use that. Or they're selling used buildings. I'm like, I just built a neighborhood after
Yeah,
piling up a bunch of houses.
right. Do you think stores do a decent job of representing products, or do you think that's something they could improve on? In other words, like you walk in, stuff you made a mention of just stuff thrown in boxes in a corner, and I've been in stores like that too. Do you think in general stores do a decent job of representing new products or products that are coming out, or do you think they need to improve on that?
I think they could improve upon it. I mean, it's kind of hard to one thing I don't usually see it a lot in stores is like an ad like from Athearn or from Bowser or for something like, hey, here's what's coming next year. You want one? Order it. Like I don't really see a lot of stuff being announced in stores. Like I know in your store, you got that big old giant poster next to the front door of the city of San Francisco from Walters.
Right.
And that could be a heads up to somebody who doesn't go on the internet much and go, hey, I want to order one of those trains because I want to see it going around my layout at 50 miles an hour. So I don't see a lot of product being promoted. I tend to see a lot of posters of stuff that companies have produced, but not a lot of announced stuff coming up. And for a lot of models, including myself, sometimes I didn't realize I wanted something until I saw the ad for it. I'm like, ooh, yes, I want one of those.
Okay, that's good. And what do you, as far as a modeler, so you said you buy a lot of narrow gauge. What else are you after? As far as like, say I walk into a store, what?
Brass logging equipment for one. That tends to be very hit or miss, depending on which stores. The stores that tend to have that, they typically have an already large brass section as it is. So logging usually on a brass category. So
Okay.
usually the stores have to have a big brass case as it is.
Right, and that can be tough because, as we know, a lot of the brass is not made anymore. So if you were going to tell a store, if they were talking to some of the manufacturers, what are some things that the stores can bug the manufacturers about, so to speak, or put a bend their ear about as far as getting some new products to the shelves? What would you like to see this? Okay, Amtrak. Okay,
Amtrak's a big one. I mean,
Okay.
I won't name a company in particular, but there's a couple model train companies that seem to, it's just my opinion, they seem to get their product research from the boomer generation. And those guys do buy a lot of stuff, but that tends to skew towards steam era, transition era, early diesels, the glory days of passenger service. And a lot of the younger guys typically go for more modern stuff, like look what Scale Trains is pumping out. But a big one that often gets missed is Amtrak. Like a couple companies are convinced Amtrak is just a waste of money to invest in. Yet, yes, you ask Rapid or anybody else, every time they produce Amtrak, gone like that. So Amtrak is a big one that if stores really want to start trying to push more product, get manufacturers to start doing more Amtrak, because that's a lot of guys in my age group tend to latch on to that, especially the more modern, the better. I mean, it's only recently that a lot of modern passenger trains and commuter rails are finally getting manufacturer attention. Like you look at Atlas is finally putting out Chicago commuter cars, and Athearn's finally putting out Amtrak California cars. And I know of a guy who said that he used to work at Athearn. He said that he's got requests for Amtrak California cars from as far away as Germany, and nobody would touch those with a 10-foot rod for close to a couple decades because they're convinced that it won't sell. Well, they're announcing it, and their pre-orders are through the roof.
Okay. Okay. You just touched on something interesting. So So a lot of the younger models, what you're kind of telling me, for what I'm hearing from you, is that a lot of the younger models are not really getting recognized for the products they want in the stores. When you walk into stores, you see a lot of steam transition. You're not seeing a lot of the newer stuff that your generation of modelers really wants to see in a store. Is that correct?
That's basically, yeah, I guess that's one point I'm trying to get at. Like a lot of like I've heard the line, the hobby is dying many times. I'm sure all you guys have heard that many times. It's a dead horse at this point. The thing is, the hobby's not so much dying, it's evolving. Yeah, a lot of stuff the older guys are into, or not as many people are into, like the steam, the transition era, early diesels. But the younger guys, they're not interested in that. They're interested in Gevos, they're interested in Amtrak, they're interested in auto racks, twin stacks, stuff like if I get in my car, go down to like Port Oakland and just sit watching trains go by, that's what guys are into. I'll give you a great example. At a train show last year in Sacramento, I brought my pride and joy is my Amtrak California brass set. Yes, the OMI 5-car one. Even though I'm a logging and narrow gauge guy, I apologize if I'm going a bit of a tangent here, but I have a point. Even though I'm a logging and narrow gauge guy, I always wanted one of those 5-car Amtrak California sets because when I was growing up, I didn't have a functioning railroad area. So anytime I'd see a real life functioning train was when I would go on a family trip to the San Francisco East Bay or Sacramento, where I'd see these things running around, and really stuck with me. So I wanted one of those sets because I have fond childhood connections. Well, I bring this set to this train show, and I'm running it around, and I see these two kids. They could not have been younger than 12 or older than 15. They're going bug-eyed watching this thing wandering around. Why? Because that's what they distinctly remember seeing going through their backyards and going across their streets living in Sacramento. These kids are not going to be interested in a shade dragging log cars through the woods. They want modern Amtrak. They want, ES44s. They want like whatever UP's using. So a lot of manufacturers need to kind of start updating their expectations. Yeah, older stuff's still selling, but they could tap a whole new market of younger guys if they would give it the attention it deserves.
Okay, that's great. Because I've seen that. We've seen that with our customer base too. In the store, we're seeing far fewer people looking at the old steam locomotives or the traditional F7 that everybody wanted, and now they're we can't keep the ACEs, the Gevos, all that kind of stuff. When they come in, they're gone. So you're hitting on that. So anything else you'd like to tell store owners that good, bad, or ugly?
Well, the one thing I will say, a lot of people complain like the internet kills their business off, and to a degree it does. However, a lot of guys I talk to and come across, they like being able to walk into a store, to put their hands on stuff, to look at it in person, to think about it, ferment on it, and or imagine themselves, and they can't imagine their lives without it. And I think a couple things store owners need to keep in mind is, number one, not everybody who walks into your store is going to buy something, at least not today. Maybe they're going to leave, remember your store, and then they're going to tell their friends, and the next time they're in, they're going to show up with a boatload of cash to make it rain, or they're going to tell their friends who will show up with a boatload of cash to make it rain. The other thing I put out is don't be a jerk, and especially don't be a jerk to kids, because you know where I'm going with this, Mark. For what I'm not going to name any names or locations, but there is one model train store I've been in my travels that I've heard stories about is just nasty towards children. I get it. Children are loud, disruptive, and they break things. But when a kid walks in and isn't even doing anything already, you're like, hey, if he touches anything, you're buying it. Or, hey, keep your hands off stuff. Like, whoa, dude, whoa. Okay, let the kid do something naughty before you lose your crap. And in one case, he chased out a kid who came from a wealthy family. Like, his monthly allowance is more than what my boss pays me, and I'm in a really good trade. And then this kid's parents just took him out and left. I'm like, you just chased dollars out the door, buddy. And my personal experience is, there's one time I was in there just to kill some time and buy a couple things, or just had nothing better to do. And at one point, I asked the person, as they're carrying like a box of stuff towards the back, I said, hey, where's your restroom? I had to take a leak, nothing urgent, and it could have waited a minute, but the sentiment, the contempt I felt coming from this person, just me asking where, and I didn't even stop them. I just, as asking as they were walking by, thinking they'll just, go in the back to the right. The look and feeling I got off this person was like, as if you just washed your car and a bird took a crap on it. Like, whoa, it's like, you could have waited a minute and said, they gave me the key and I go take care of business. But it's like that hostile attitude. That's kind of the stuff I'm getting at. I'm like, if you make me feel like I'm going to get shot at by walking in your store, I'm not going to be wanting to walk in your store. And you can make all kinds of comments about, generations is, more sensitive, snowflake, blah, 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 all the famous buzzwords. Well, the thing is, snowflakes still have lots of cash and cash that you want them to give you in exchange for a product. So you got to make the environment feel welcoming. I can walk in the Mark store. Anyone can walk in the Mark store and just like, okay, this is a cool place to hang out, BS with the guy behind the counter, and just feel welcome. Other places I walk into, I'm like, it just feels like if I'm not buying anything, I should just leave.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that, Mike. Does anybody else have any questions for Mike?
Mike, do you think that the associations are really doing a good job trying to attract younger modelers into our hobby?
I like to think so, but I don't really have enough information on those to really render an opinion one way or the other. I think I could go on a whole other tangent about trying to keep young guys in the hobby, but the TLDR version I'd like to say is that the issue in getting young people in the hobby isn't so much getting them in, it's retention.
And you're a member of the NMRA just like me, correct?
I am a member of the NMRA.
Right. Do you feel that organization as an organization is helping to promote the hobby with young people?
I'd say 50-50. I'd say, yeah, it is trying to help, but at the same time, they could do more, but it's not like anything they're doing is a detriment.
Right.
It's not like they're pushing anybody away. I just think that's kind of a neutral thing for now. I think the recruiting end of things tends to happen on a much lower, more local level than on a national level. I also think there maybe is a bit of a generational disconnect, but that's my opinion. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Right. Well, so, okay, one last question. As far as a hobby shop, what do you think a hobby shop could do to help promote this hobby with the younger generations? To get them interested?
Basically give them a comfortable, warm, welcoming point of reference. Give them a good, trying to laugh at me for this phrase, good safe space they can go to for advice, for help, for information, to go buy stuff. Or if you don't have it, a referral to somebody who might. Or, hey, say I come in and say, hey, I bought this online, but this is doing X, instead of getting your undies in a bunch that they bought online instead of from you. Give them some help, give them some advice, give them some, or point them, say, hey, if you want it to work right, there's that thing on the shelf that might work for you.
There you go. Okay.
It's like you got to give them sort of a, because a lot of younger guys, some younger guys have someone in the family who got them into the hobby, but plenty of younger guys, myself included, we're the only one in our house, in our family that's into this. So we really can't turn to anybody else in our immediate surroundings to this. So I gotta reach out to other modelers in the area, and having your store to go to, someone I can springboard ideas off of, someone I can reach out to, or who might know other people, a club or a group or just a posse of guys spend Friday night drinking beer and talking model trains. I think that could help a lot of younger guys, get in and stay in it, because basically they can get the feeling like they're not alone.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. So promote a little unity in the hobby and camaraderie.
I think so. And one other point I wanted to make, I know you didn't, this is a bit unsolicited, but one point I wanted to make is I think a lot of people would honestly prefer brick and mortar over online, but the problem is brick and mortar stores have become the exception, not the rule. So from where I'm sitting talking to you, I can think of at least 5 model train stores in a 2-hour driving radius. Mark Poggi's Trains, Luz Caboose in Napa, Railroad Hobbies in Sacramento, Just Trains in Concord, the Train Shop in Santa Clara, 6 if
Right.
you count the 2 shelves of stuff at the Ace Hardware in Berkeley, and there was the one in Lodi, but that guy closed like 2 years ago.
Yep.
But
That
I
was a neat
have
store.
access to model train stores that I can drive. But if I'm living in like the wilds of eastern Montana, there's model train stores a day and a half drive. I'm not going shopping there. I'm just going to go on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Train World, which is basically the Amazon of model trains, and I'm just going to order it there. And I know
Right.
you have to have a certain population density in order to support a model train store, but as cows to the sound, that's not really my problem. My problem is I don't have access to a model train store if I'm living in some of these BFE locations.
Yeah.
That is very true. Very true. All right. Anybody else have any questions for Mike? I really appreciate your input, Mike, because this is the kind of things that hobby shops need to hear. And, another shop can preach it all you want, but when you open the door and allow the customer like yourself to come in and give their side of the story, I think that's invaluable information to pass on, because there's always things to think about as a store owner, how to maximize our profit and our longevity. And it's answers like what you've given us really help push it in the right direction.
Yeah, and whenever I'm whenever I travel to a location, one of the first things I look up is model train stores near me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, no, as far as which model NMRI division I'm in the PCR, Pacific Coast region or Redwood Empire division. Anyway, like I was saying, I try and hit a model train store. I was up in northern Idaho with my girlfriend for her family's reunion, and we were going to go into Spokane since it's like a 20-minute drive just to kill time on one day. And for no reason, I can't remember why, but I just looked up model train store Spokane thinking, what are the odds? Well, turns out there was a model train store in Spokane that was open on the day we were going to be looking. I'm like, hey, sweetheart, can we go check this out for an hour or two? And I have an awesome girlfriend who tolerates my hobby on top of my other shenanigans. Believe me, that woman deserves a medal.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, Mark's met her. He knows. Anyway,
You scored a pretty good locomotive there, didn't you? You scored a pretty good locomotive.
Yes, I did. I went in there, and remember earlier saying like, I didn't know I wanted it until I saw it sitting on the shelf. I was just gonna go in just to kill time, take a look, say maybe that guy has 1 or 2 things I've been looking for forever and can't find. But what he had sitting, one of the things he had sitting on the shelf is a beautiful Spokane, Portland, Seattle RS3 by Bowser. I'm not an SPNS guy, but I do find the rail kind of interesting. But I'm like, I want to take this home. For one reason is I thought, hey, how cool would it be that I got a Spokane, Portland, Seattle engine in Spokane, of all places. I was hoping when I was going to hit a model train store in Portland the next day, long story, and hope I could pick one up for Portland, but that did not happen. But either way, I didn't know I wanted it until I saw it sitting on the store. And as a result, that I walked out with a train, and that guy got $170 of my cash. So, and he was, can I plug that guy's store name on here?
Oh yeah, no problem. Oh yeah.
Valley Trains and Electronics in Spokane Valley. Really neat store. Very, very friendly owner. Great selection of products. If you're in town, drop by. He's really, really cool. Really awesome dude. If I had to, really, if I ever a chance to, I'll stop by his store again. And yeah, that SPNS engine was a great purchase. It's actually one of my best engines I've ever bought. That thing will pull down the drywall. It's smooth, running, quiet. Great job, Bowser. So yeah, I was killing time, saw him on a train store, and spent money there.
No, that's great. In fact, I'm going to try to have him on in one of the future episodes. So anyway, okay. Any other questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike. We really appreciate your input. It goes a long way, and I'm sure.
Anytime.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you for having me.
No sweat. I'm glad you made it.
Mike,
All right,
thanks.
Jim.
Really appreciate it. And Mark, I can't thank you enough for bringing Mike to our attention. That was really an interesting segment. So thanks so much.
No problem. I just figured a little bit different twist and gives us something to think about from the other side of the gate.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, sir.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.